You'd think those obsessive ex-girlfriends only existed in movies. I thought the same too. And I didn't think I'd ever have to see myself experiencing something like that. But life just keeps proving me wrong. Hi, I'm Max, and my ex-girlfriend stalked and obsessed with me even up until I got engaged. It's a really long story, and it all started when we were still together. That was a long time ago, though. But even then, I really find it hard to forget. Her name's Cynthia, and at the start of our relationship, she was really sweet and caring. We were in college back then, and we were just so in love, we ended up renting an apartment together so we could spend more time with each other and just, avoid the dorms by being roommates ourselves. She was ecstatic, and so was I. Living with your girlfriend? It couldn't get any better. Cynthia was perfect. Whenever I had to cram something and had to stay up late, she'd make coffee and bring me snacks. She'd pack me lunches and cook for me, and even help me if I needed to review for my quizzes and exams. She really just pampered me in general. Cynthia was a big romantic, too. So we often went on dates during the weekends. It was a lot of fun, I'll admit. I really treasured those moments with her. It started going downhill when we were near the graduate season and I had to cram a lot of group projects. I'd message her about going home late, telling her about working on a paper with a specific person, and she'd just say she was okay with it. I thought we were all good, that she meant it when she said she was okay, so I'd just work until late before going back. I know I should have seen the red flag and just made a run for it the moment I saw it. But when you're in an awesome relationship with someone, you don't really see it at a first glance. Or the second one after that. Heck, not even the third. Anyway, when I got home that night, I saw some of the plates in the kitchen were broken, and Cynthia was just making tea like the shards of plate around her didn't exist. "Cynthia?" I called out. "Hmm?" She hummed in reply before turning to look at me. She saw that I was looking at the broken plates, and she only waved me off as it was the most normal thing in the world. "Ah, I just dropped those. I'll clean it up later. Do you want some tea?" she asked me. Thinking about that now, years later, it still gives me goosebumps. At the time, I ignored it and shrugged it off, thinking that it wasn't creepy at all. I wish I'd seen sooner, though, because the signs after that were much worse. They were way more obvious and violent, and that was when I started to distance myself. She'd often snoop through my phone while I was asleep, and when she can't open it the first try, she'd wake me up just to pick a fight with me and call me a cheater. We would fight about it all night, and the only time she'd ever feel satisfied is if she called all the girl contacts and confirmed I wasn't having an affair with any of them. There was also that one time when I got home from class, and all my stuff was scattered in the living room. My clothes were thrown everywhere, along with my personal belongings. And when I confronted her about it, she just told me she was making sure I didn't have a secret phone that I was hiding from her, and that she loved me very much and was happy that I wasn't hiding anything. I should have run off when that happened. But I really stayed, and thought that was just how she was. My tipping point was when she harassed one of my partners for a lab activity into dropping out, just because she saw us eating together in the cafeteria because we were discussing a project experiment. Cynthia almost got expelled after that. When I confronted her about the whole thing, she told me she only did it because she loved me. I felt sick to my stomach. I had to apologize to that girl myself because what Cynthia did kept me up at night. It made me feel really guilty. Like somehow it was my fault. I couldn't believe that she had to hurt other people like that just because of our relationship. I ended up leaving her soon after, and she stalked me for a while. She ruined every date I had or got set up with, surprising me every time that she knew where I was going. She would follow me everywhere I went, and whenever I caught her and confronted her, threatening to call the cops, she begged me to come back. When I declined, I got a slap across my face as if it was my fault our relationship ended. She mellowed down for a while, and I was able to go back into the dating scene without having to worry about anyone attacking the girl I was meeting up with. During this time is when I met my current fiance, Sophia. She was kind and gentle, and I was worried she'd end up like Cynthia in the long run. But I convinced myself that if I got scared now, I would never find myself the right person. I didn't see any red flags with Sophia, but it was probably because it wasn't her that carried it. I'll explain. I took Sophia to this really fancy restaurant because I wanted to impress her. We had a good night, just eating and talking to each other about anything and everything. She told me she'll use the restroom at one point, and I nodded, not really thinking much of it. I looked around the restaurant while patiently waiting for her, watching the waiters and waitresses entertain different people. And that's where I saw her. Cynthia. Of course I wasn't sure. I could have been paranoid and was just seeing things, but it still made me feel restless. I kept moving in my seat, trying to get a better look, craning my head to try and check if it really was her. I only saw a glimpse, but it made me feel uneasy the whole night. The figure I was trying to see, I ended up losing in the crowd of faces when Sophia returned and I had to look at her. "Are you okay?" Sophia asked me, concerned. "Oh, yes, just thought I saw someone I knew," I explained, forcing a smile out of me. She didn't seem to catch on to how shaken up I was, which was good. I didn't want to ruin a perfectly good date, especially if I was just seeing things. "Oh, okay, that's good. But listen," she started off and placed a hand on top of mine. "I know this is our date and all, but I saw my friend in this restaurant too, and she was all alone." I knew where this was going, which was honestly fine by me, because Sophia had been really great all night, and maybe agreeing to do this favor for her would increase my chances of scoring another date. "I was wondering if it's okay if we invite her here. I'll just make it up to you on our next date." Sophia smiled at me. I agreed in a heartbeat. How could I have said no to that? Sophia was happy, and she immediately texted her friend to come over while I finished off the rest of my meal. "Here she is! Max, I want you to meet my friend." Sophia got up from her seat, causing me to look up from my wine. What I saw next almost made me spit the drink in my mouth. Cynthia stood next to Sophia, all innocent smiles and cheerful greetings. She even apologized for intruding, but continued to sit at our table for the rest of the night. I couldn't believe it. I felt like all of what happened was just a dream. The night went by like a breeze, and I was just getting dragged away because of how hung up I was on the whole thing. I even ended up agreeing to drive Cynthia home, despite my mind screaming not to do it. She didn't say anything about us, or even acted weird around Sophia. I was the weird one just because I couldn't wrap my head around it. I don't know what her reasons are for keeping quiet about us, but Sophia remained innocent that Cynthia and I were exes, and didn't even get a hint about it. I probably wouldn't tell her in fear that she'd side with her friend. I was contemplating the whole drive home, whether I'd continue seeing Sophia or just stop all in all. But the more I thought about it, the more prideful I got. I didn't want Cynthia ruining my life anymore, and Sophia was a girl that I really liked. Even if I did end up ending things with her, Cynthia's just going to keep ruining me for other girls until I get fed up with it and agree to be together again. And in no circumstances am I willing to do that. So, after that night, Sophia and I continued to see each other. I was worried at first, of course, that Cynthia's going to keep showing up. And she did the first few times and kept jumping on our date, claiming that she just passed by and didn't expect to see us there. It got annoying soon enough. Not just from me, but Sophia as well. Cynthia only stopped when she and Sophia got into an argument that wasn't related to us in any way, leading to the termination of their friendship. I didn't see much of her after that, and I've never felt more relief in my whole life. The rest of my days with Sophia were as peaceful as I can remember. No Cynthia, not even a glimpse of her shadow anymore. Sophia and I ended up getting engaged over time. Of course, I was the one who proposed to her, and we were so happy we immediately got into wedding planning. I completely forgot about Cynthia and her whole ordeal, given that neither of us ever mentioned her again, and we were quite busy with wedding preparations. I thought my life would continue to be at peace, but when I saw the wedding invitations my fiance had created, I felt my heart drop to my stomach. Written in the fancy letters is Cynthia's name, and not only as a guest to our wedding, but Sophia's bridesmaid as well. I stood there completely speechless, not knowing how to process the new information, and if I had anything left to do about it. I had to talk to Sophia. "Honey, Cynthia's going to our wedding?" I asked, trying not to sound completely surprised. "Oh, yes! I wanted it to be a surprise to you that she and I made up. And I thought, what better way to let you know?" Sophia enthusiastically gestured to the pile of invitations on her desk. I couldn't speak, couldn't muster a reply. couldn't even smile at her. The possibility that Cynthia's going to be a part of our lives from now on scares me to no end. And all I can do is let it happen, because I love my fiance a little too much to even let her know the truth. I'm sure somewhere, wherever Cynthia may be, is celebrating the fact that I'm cornered. It's either I bear with the fact that she'll be a part of our lives forever now, or I risk losing Sophia by telling her Cynthia and I used to date. And I waited this long to tell her. I dug my own grave.